Hello, and welcome to our channel. We're thrilled to have you with us today for a story that unfolds like a quiet storm, revealing the power of tradition in the face of unexpected challenges. Imagine a damp, early morning in Whitehall, London, where the air is heavy with mist and history. A convoy of American diplomatic vehicles rolls to a stop before a solemn war memorial, their polished surfaces reflecting the gray sky above. Stepping out with an air of confidence is none other than U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, his tailored suit a stark contrast to the somber setting. With a warm smile, he extends his hand toward a royal guard standing sentinel, aiming to create a moment of friendly diplomacy, a gesture that could bridge nations in a single frame. But what happens next leaves the entire U.S. delegation stunned, their breaths caught in a silence that speaks louder than words. Before we dive deeper into this extraordinary encounter, we'd love for you to join our community. If this story piques your interest, please hit that subscribe button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories like this to light. And we can't wait to hear what you think about this clash of protocol and principle. Now, let's step into the heart of Whitehall and meet the two men at the center of this unforgettable moment. The scene is set against the backdrop of Whitehall, a place where the weight of history is almost tangible. The war memorial stands as a silent tribute to those who gave everything, its stone surface etched with names that time will never erase. Around it, the city hums softly in the early hours. But here, there's a reverence that demands quiet. Tourists and locals alike gather, some to pay respects, others to witness the timeless presence of the royal guards who stand watch. These guards, in their iconic red tunics and towering bearskin hats, are more than just a spectacle. They are living symbols of duty, honor, and an unwavering commitment to tradition. Among them on this particular morning is Corporal Daniel Reeve, a man whose very stance radiates discipline. Reeve isn't just any guard, he's a former combat soldier, hardened by years on the battlefield before taking up this ceremonial role. His weathered hands grip his rifle with precision, his eyes fixed forward, unyielding. For Reeve, this post isn't about pageantry, it's about honoring the fallen, protecting a legacy, and upholding a code that no one, no matter their rank or title, can sway. His mission is singular: to stand as a pillar of respect for those who can no longer stand themselves. Every muscle in his body is trained to remain still, every thought focused on the sanctity of his duty. As the damp air clings to his uniform, he stands ready, unaware that a test of his resolve is about to unfold. Enter J.D. Vance, the U. Vice President, a man accustomed to the fluid, often symbolic gestures of Washington politics. In the world of diplomacy, a handshake isn't just a greeting, it's a statement, a photo opportunity, a way to signal alliance and goodwill. Vance steps out of his vehicle with the ease of someone who's shaken countless hands, brokered countless deals, and posed for countless cameras. His suit is impeccable, his smile practiced, and his demeanor exudes a confidence born from years in the public eye. Today, as part of an official visit to strengthen ties with the UK, he sees an opportunity to create a memorable moment. A handshake with a royal guard, captured by the press trailing behind him, could be a powerful image of camaraderie between two allied nations. It's a gesture that, in his mind, transcends protocol, a simple act of appreciation for service, a bridge between cultures. As he approaches the memorial, his delegation follows closely, their faces a mix of anticipation and routine professionalism. Vance spots Corporal Reeve standing at attention near the monument, a striking figure against the muted tones of the morning. With a nod to his team, he strides forward, his hand already extended, his smile broadening as he prepares to make that connection. The crowd around begins to notice, their murmurs growing as they sense something unusual about to happen. Vance stops just a step away from Reeve, his hand outstretched in a gesture that's second nature to him. His voice is low but warm, carrying a tone of genuine respect as he speaks. "Appreciate your service. soldier. The words are meant to be a bridge, a moment of human connection amid the formality of the occasion. But what follows is not the response Vance expects. Corporal Reeve remains utterly motionless, his body a statue of discipline. His eyes stare straight ahead, locked on some invisible point beyond the vice president, as if Vance isn't even there. His hands remain fixed on his rifle, not a finger twitching, not a glance shifting. The silence that envelops the square is deafening, a heavy, awkward void that seems to stretch on forever. Vance's hand hovers in midair, caught between persistence and uncertainty. Should he withdraw it? Should he wait? His smile falters just slightly, a flicker of confusion crossing his face as the reality of the situation sinks in. Around them, the crowd begins to whisper, their voices a soft undercurrent of surprise and curiosity. Some pull out their phones, eager to capture this unexpected moment, while others exchange puzzled looks, unsure of what they're witnessing. The U delegation, standing a few paces back, shifts uncomfortably, their expressions tightening as they realize this isn't going as planned. The damp morning air seems to grow colder, the tension wrapping around everyone like a shroud. For a few agonizing seconds, Vance holds his position, his hand still extended, perhaps hoping that patience will yield a response. Maybe he thinks a moment longer will break through the guard's stoic exterior, that Reeve will acknowledge the gesture with even a subtle nod. But Reeve is a wall of resolve, his training an impenetrable shield. Royal guards are bound by strict protocol during ceremonial duties, especially at a site as sacred as a war memorial. They do not engage, do not speak, do not break formation. For anyone, no matter their status, Reeve's silence isn't personal. It's a testament to the principles he's sworn to uphold. His duty isn't to diplomats or dignitaries. It's to the memory of the fallen, to the honor of his uniform, to the traditions that have stood for centuries. As the seconds tick by, Vance's expression shifts from confidence to visible discomfort. A faint flush creeps up his neck, his smile now completely gone. Behind him, a member of his staff, sensing the growing awkwardness, steps forward discreetly and leans in to whisper, "Sir, they don't break form during ceremony. Royal protocol." The words are soft, meant to spare further embarrassment, but they only deepen the sting of the moment. Vance's jaw tightens, his lips pressing into a thin line as he slowly lowers his hand. His eyes dart briefly to the crowd, then back to Reeve, a flicker of hurt passing through them before he masks it with a forced nod. The onlookers' whispers grow louder, a mix of sympathy and fascination, as hundreds of eyes bear witness to this quiet but profound rejection. Just as the moment seems to hang in an unbearable limbo, the weather adds its own dramatic touch. The sky, already heavy with clouds, begins to release a steady rain, the drops falling with a soft patter on the stone ground. Raindrops land on Vance's outstretched hand, now withdrawn, as if nature itself is underscoring the weight of the rejection. They bead on his suit, on the memorial, on Reeve's uniform, blending into the solemn atmosphere that permeates the square. The rain seems to amplify the silence, each drop a tiny echo in the stillness that follows Vance's gesture. Among the crowd, an elderly British veteran, standing with his young grandson, leans down to whisper, "You're seeing something books can't teach, lad. This is real loyalty, real respect." His voice is quiet, but carries a reverence that cuts through the murmur of the crowd. The boy looks up, wide-eyed, not fully understanding but sensing the gravity of the moment. And then, as if on cue, Corporal Reeve performs a slow, deliberate salute not to Vance, not to any living person, but to the memorial itself, to the memory of those who sacrificed everything. The movement is precise, laden with meaning, a silent tribute that speaks louder than any handshake could. The entire square seems to hold its breath, captivated by the sheer power of this gesture, by the strength of silence and discipline in the face of expectation. Even the rain seems to pause in respect, as if honoring the weight of what's just transpired. The ceremony eventually concludes, and the crowd begins to disperse, their conversations buzzing with reflections on what they've witnessed. The Yupani delegation moves on. Their faces a mix of quiet embarrassment and forced professionalism as they shield Vance from further attention under umbrellas. Vance himself remains composed, though there's a lingering tightness in his posture, a subtle sign of the moment's impact. For Corporal Reeve, the day continues as it always does. He stands guard until his shift ends, his expression never wavering, his duty never faltering. Later, in the quiet of the guard's changing room, the atmosphere shifts to one of camaraderie and reflection, as Reeve removes his heavy bearskin hat and begins to unbutton his tunic. His fellow guards gather around, their curiosity piqued by the morning's events. One of them, a younger soldier with a cheeky grin, leans against a locker and asks the question on everyone's mind. "Mate, if you knew that was the vice president, would you have shaken his hand? Just a quick one, for diplomacy's sake." The room falls quiet, waiting for Reeve's response. He pauses, setting his hat down with care, and looks up with a steady gaze. No, because this uniform means something sacred. It's not about a moment of attention or pleasing someone, no matter who they are. It's about guarding what matters most. His words are simple but heavy, carrying the weight of conviction. The other guards nod, some in silent agreement, others with a newfound respect in their eyes. The room fills with a quiet understanding, a shared recognition of the deeper purpose behind their role. For Reeve, this isn't just about protocol. It's about preserving something timeless, something bigger than any individual, even a world leader. This story doesn't end in the changing room, though. It spreads like wildfire across social media. Clips of the encounter circulating on platforms around the globe. The image of Vance's hand hanging unanswered, of Reeve's unyielding stance, becomes a lightning rod for debate. Some praise the guard's discipline, seeing it as a powerful stand for tradition and respect for the fallen. Others question whether a small gesture of acknowledgement could have been made without compromising duty, arguing that diplomacy sometimes demands flexibility. News outlets pick up the story, framing it as everything from a cultural misunderstanding to a poignant lesson in the clash of personal and institutional values. Online forums buzz with opinions, with users dissecting every angle of the incident. Was Vance wrong to extend his hand, unaware of royal protocol? Was Reeve's refusal a necessary act of principle, or an unnecessary slight to an ally? The discussion rages on, but one thing is clear: this moment at Whitehall has struck a chord, forcing us to grapple with questions of tradition, duty, and the delicate dance of international relations. So, we turn to you, our thoughtful viewers. What would you do if faced with a choice between unwavering principle and diplomatic courtesy? Would you stand firm like Reeve, or bend just enough to acknowledge the moment, like Vance hoped? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We're eager to hear your perspective on this complex encounter. And if you're moved by stories that explore the strength of silence, the power of discipline, and the depth of loyalty, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Hit that button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. We're committed to bringing you narratives that challenge and inspire, and your support makes it all possible. Let's take a step back and reflect on the layers of this story, because there's so much more to unpack beyond the surface. Whitehall, with its war memorial at the heart, isn't just a backdrop, it's a character in its own right. This is a place where the sacrifices of countless souls are etched in stone, where every ceremony, every guard's stance, is a tribute to those who gave their all. For Corporal Reeve, standing guard here isn't a performance for tourists or dignitaries. It's a sacred act, a way to honor the past while protecting its memory in the present. His refusal to shake Vance's hand wasn't a personal rejection. It was a defense of that sanctity, a reminder that some duties transcend the moment, no matter who's watching. For many of us over 45 who've perhaps lived through times of war or known those who served, this might resonate on a profound level. Maybe you've visited memorials yourself, felt the weight of names carved into stone, or stood in silence at ceremonies that honor the fallen. Reeve's actions mirror that reverence. that commitment to something greater than self. It's a quiet strength that doesn't seek applause, but commands respect nonetheless. Have you ever felt that pull to honor something sacred, even when it meant standing against expectation? We'd love to hear your stories in the comments. Now, let's consider J.D. Vance's perspective, because understanding both sides adds depth to this narrative. As vice president, Vance operates in a world where gestures carry immense symbolic weight. A handshake isn't just a greeting, it's a tool of diplomacy, a way to build rapport, to signal unity, to create a narrative for the public. In Washington, such acts are often spontaneous, tailored to the moment, and celebrated as signs of warmth or alliance. When Vance extended his hand to Reeve, he likely saw it as a natural expression of gratitude, a way to say, "We see your service, and we value it." It was a chance to craft a positive image, especially during an official visit meant to reinforce ties between the U.S. and the UK. But in doing so, he encountered a cultural and institutional barrier he may not have anticipated. Royal guards, especially during ceremonial duties at a site like this, are bound by rules that leave no room for personal interaction. Vance's gesture, well-intentioned as it was, collided with a tradition that prioritizes duty over diplomacy in such contexts. The resulting awkwardness, the hand left hanging, wasn't just a personal embarrassment. It was a public lesson in the limits of assumption. For those of us who've navigated cross-cultural situations or professional settings with rigid protocols, this might recall moments where good intentions clashed with unfamiliar rules. Maybe you've offered a gesture of kindness only to be met with unexpected resistance, or misjudged a situation due to differing norms. How did you recover from it? Share your experiences with us in the comments. We're all learning from these shared stories. Let's also think about the role of the crowd and the delegation, because their reactions shaped the moment as much as the actions of Vance and Reeve. The onlookers, a mix of tourists, locals, and perhaps veterans paying their respects, became an unintended audience to a drama they didn't expect. Their whispers, their phone cameras, their subtle gasps amplified the tension, turning a private misstep into a public spectacle. In an era where every moment can be recorded and shared globally, their presence added pressure to both men. For Vance, the weight of those eyes likely deepened the sting of rejection, knowing that this image would circulate far beyond Whitehall. For Reeve, the crowd might have been a silent reminder of why he couldn't break. Every tourist, every child watching, was a witness to the tradition he upholds. The U.S. delegation, meanwhile, faced their own discomfort. Caught between supporting their leader and respecting the protocol they'd inadvertently breached, the quiet whisper from Vance's aide, the subtle shift in their postures, spoke to a shared embarrassment, a wish to move past the moment as quickly as possible. For us, especially those who've been in situations where a small error became a public event, this might bring to mind the vulnerability of being watched. How do we act when we know our missteps could be broadcast to the world? It's a modern challenge, and we're curious to hear your thoughts on navigating it. Comment below with your insights. Let's linger on the rain for a moment, because its arrival added a poetic layer to the scene. As the drops began to fall, landing on Vance's withdrawn hand, on Reeve's unmoving form, on the memorial itself, they seemed to mirror the emotional undercurrent of the moment. Rain often symbolizes cleansing or renewal, but here, it felt more like a quiet commentary on the weight of rejection, on the solemnity of the setting. It blurred the lines between the personal and the profound, as if nature itself was acknowledging the clash of human intention against unyielding duty, coupled with the veteran's whisper to his grandson about witnessing true loyalty. The rain framed Reeve's salute to the memorial as a moment of transcendent meaning. That salute, slow and deliberate, wasn't for Vance or the crowd. It was for the fallen. A gesture that cut through the awkwardness and refocused everyone on why they were there. For many of us who've attended ceremonies or stood in the rain at gravesides, this image might evoke a visceral memory of respect, of moments where the elements themselves seem to honor the past. Reeve's action, amplified by the rain, reminds us that some duties are untouched by personal or political agendas. Have you experienced a moment where nature seemed to underscore a profound event? We'd love to hear about it in the comments. Now, let's explore the aftermath and the broader conversation this incident sparked, because its impact didn't end when the rain stopped. As news of the encounter spread online, it became a canvas for diverse opinions. Some saw Reeves' refusal as a powerful stand for tradition, a necessary reminder that not everything bends to political convenience. They argued that shaking hands, even with the vice president, would have diminished the sanctity of the memorial and the guard's role. Others felt Vance deserved at least a subtle acknowledgement, suggesting that a balance could have been struck between protocol and courtesy, especially given the diplomatic context. They questioned whether such rigid adherence to rules risks alienating allies over minor gestures. Still others framed it as a cultural misunderstanding, pointing out that Vance may not have been fully briefed on Royal Guard protocol, and that his intent was to honor, not disrupt. This debate reflects larger questions about how we navigate tradition in a globalized world, where interactions often cross cultural and institutional lines. For our audience over 45, who've likely seen societal norms shift over decades, this might echo debates you've witnessed or participated in. How do we honor the past while adapting to the present? When does principle outweigh pragmatism? These aren't easy questions, and we'd love to hear where you stand. Comment below with your take on this nuanced issue. Let's imagine for a moment what might have happened if this encounter had unfolded differently. What if Reeve had broken protocol, even slightly, to acknowledge Vance's gesture with a nod or a brief glance? It's unlikely given the guard's training, but let's consider the possibility. Such a response might have softened the moment, turning an awkward rejection into a subtle exchange of respect. The headlines might have read, U.S. Vice President shares moment with Royal Guard, framing it as a positive interaction. But at what cost for Riv? Even a small deviation could have undermined the very duty he's sworn to uphold, setting a precedent that personal gestures can override ceremonial sanctity. Within his unit, it might have been seen as a lapse, a moment of weakness in the face of pressure. And for future guards, it could blur the lines of protocol, making their role less about unwavering honor and more about situational judgment. This hypothetical reminds us how fragile such moments are, how a single choice can shift the narrative entirely. It also highlights the depth of training that guards like Reeve undergo, a preparation so ingrained that it holds even under the gaze of a world leader. For those of us who faced high-stakes decisions where bending the rules seemed easier than standing firm, this might resonate. Maybe it was a workplace dilemma or a personal stand where you had to choose integrity over convenience. What guided your choice? Share your reflections with us in the comments. Let's also think about Vance's recovery from this moment, because his response in the aftermath matters too. As the delegation moved on, shielded by umbrellas and a wall of staff, Vance maintained a composed exterior, though the tightness in his posture hinted at the sting of the encounter. Public figures like him are trained to brush off embarrassment, to pivot to the next handshake, the next photo op. But behind closed doors, one wonders if this moment lingered, if it became a quiet lesson in the limits of assumption. Perhaps it prompted a deeper briefing on cultural protocols, a resolve to approach such interactions with more caution. Or maybe it fueled a private frustration, a sense of being slighted on an international stage. Either way, it's a reminder that even the most powerful among us face moments of vulnerability, moments where intent doesn't align with outcome. For many of us who've held leadership roles or navigated public settings, this might recall times when our best intentions were misunderstood or rebuffed. How do we learn from such experiences without losing the courage to reach out again? It's a balance, and we're curious to hear how you've struck it. Comment below with your insights. Let's circle back to Reeves' words in the changing room, because they encapsulate the heart of this story. When asked if he'd have shaken Vance's hand knowing his title, his response was unflinching no, because this uniform means something sacred. It's a statement of purpose, a declaration that duty isn't negotiable. no matter the stakes. For Reeve, the uniform isn't just fabric. It's a mantle of responsibility, a connection to history, to sacrifice, to values that endure beyond the fleeting demands of the moment. His refusal wasn't about Vance. It was about preserving something timeless, something that countless others have died to protect. For our audience, especially those who've worn uniforms of service or carried roles of deep responsibility, this might strike a powerful chord. Maybe you've stood for something sacred in your own life, whether it's a family tradition,